It's another Notebook Check Tech review, and today we've got the Toshiba Satellite Radius 14. You may have watched the video from yesterday, the Radius 11. It didn't score a very high score. In fact, it was a pretty bad 72%. We've got the 14-inch version here, and I can tell you straight out of the box, I'm looking at quite a poor screen. I'm going to go through some of the performance tests we've done, a lab test, and I'll give you some more detail on the screen. I immediately noticed that the keyboard's better than that Radius 11, but it's not a real typist-focused keyboard. So we're going to take a quick look around the device, talk about the specs and performance data, including processor, GPU, heat, what else do we want to do? Battery life. That's the other one we're going to do. So, Satellite Radius 14. Take a look then at the ports. Now, it was pretty interesting. No, actually, before we look at the ports, let's talk about the casing and the design here, because this is a, we still say yoga style, don't we? Because it's a 360-degree turning device. Now, I'm just going to put that into tablet mode there and tell you that this is a 2-kilogram device and it's pretty difficult to hold in the hands. The edges are pretty hard, and that is possibly an issue for some people, this style and the edges on it. It's a very hard, squared off finish. Actually, it might look okay for some people, but if you look on the corners, you'll see it's fairly hard, and in tablet mode, it's absolutely hopeless to hold. Now, of course, that stand mode is something you can use, and that's quite a nice mode for just sort of reading in tablet mode, looking at the news and that sort of stuff. So that's a nice mode to have there. But let's go back to that laptop mode, and I'm going to quickly tell you about the keyboard and the screen. So let's just scroll down to test results on the screen, and you'll see there in the middle a really poor 224 nits maximum brightness. So that's not very good. This is an indoor-only device. In fact, this is probably not really good enough for a bright office where you've got bright office lighting. This is going to be living room or even aircraft cabin style lighting. So the brightness not so good there. In terms of contrast, a pretty poor black level as well. So we've got a contrast of 605, and that's really not acceptable for 2015. It should be nearer to the 1,000 mark to be having an acceptable sort of black-white contrast. Color accuracy, grayscale accuracy, let's look down there. 10.29 for color, that's bad. Anything below 5 is pretty good. Anything above 10 is not too good. And the same for the grayscale, 11.82. So that's not good either. So overall, that screen, pretty basic, and it is not an IPS screen. And you can see that if I just, well, in fact, you can see that right there. That's very easy to see that that's not an IPS screen. And it's 1366 by 768. So overall, a pretty bad screen. So that's not a good start for the Radius 14. Onto the keyboard. Now, the keyboard feels quite nice. It's solid. There's a little bit of slight give in the middle, but nothing too much. There's a good click point on the keys, and the contrast of the key cap seems to be pretty good, and the layout okay. It's not, as I say, typist focused, but that's not too bad for some blogging, for some emails, and of course social media, and typing in your URLs on your web browser. Now, about the mousepad, let's just take a quick look at that. The mouse buttons are actually built in, but there's a nice press point, and it's a very smooth and fairly large gesture-capable touchpad. So that's quite nice there on the touchpad. Overall, that keyboard and mousepad, touchpad, not too bad. Quick look around the ports here. A reasonable selection of ports. We've got power, we've got USB 3, headphone or headset port there. On the other side, we have a full-size SD card slot, 2 USB 3s, and a full-size HDMI port. That's the power on button there. And then we've also got the Kensington lock as well. A quick look at some of the specifications. I want to highlight a couple of things. So this is a Core i3 based device, so it's going to be office capable, basic office capable. It's not going to be high-end performance here. But one of the things you're going to have to watch out for is that we've got a 1 terabyte spinning hard drive in there. So we're going to look at the performance of that in a minute, but I can guarantee that's going to slow this device down. The combination of core and spinning hard drive isn't going to give you high-end performance. We've got 4 gigs of RAM. 4 gigs of RAM there. It's only a single channel DDR3L, and there's that to display information. AC Wi-Fi supported on here, so unlike the Radius 11, we actually got AC Wi-Fi, and a 46 watt hour battery there, which obviously sealed inside and not replaceable without taking the back cover off. On that back cover, you can take it off, and we're assuming that because that Hitachi Travelstar is a 2.5-inch SATA drive, that you'll be able to take that out and put an SSD in. So that's an interesting upgrade and something you might want to consider for this device. Starting retail price was $699. I'm not sure what the street prices are on that one at the moment. So let's have a look at some of the performance figures now. We've got the Intel Core i3 inside. It is the Broadwell generation Core i3, so not the latest Skylake, so 2014 generation Core i3. Let's have a look at Cinebench multi-CPU score, R15. Let's go to that, and you'll see that Toshiba Satellite Radius 14 coming in at 214 points. And you'll see that the Core i5s there, of the ThinkPads and the ProBooks, coming in slightly higher. So that's the difference between that Core i3, which doesn't have turbo overclocking, and the Core i5s, which have the turbo boost as well. So there's a good 20+% there. In fact, up to nearly 40% with the ProBook 440. That's enough performance for basic office work, and as I mentioned, that hard drive is going to be probably the bottleneck for most things. Before we look at the hard drive performance, there's the PC Mark score 2550, and if you go down to the ThinkPad there, the E460, it's got a Radeon R7 discrete GPU in, and so that's bringing in 4852 on the PC Mark 7 score 2550. Well, if you swap that for an SSD, that would go up by a good, I guess, about 500 points. You get to the 3000 mark at least with the PC Mark. Now let's talk about that storage device. There's the figures for the storage. Maximum 97 megabytes per second sequential read. That's not fantastic. The cheap tablets with eMMC memory, the cheap flash memory, can beat that. And this 4K write speed and read speed, absolutely terrible at 0.39 of a megabyte per second on the reads, and just under 1 megabyte per second for writes. Those figures really need to be up high for a modern, let's say, not barrier-free, but just to reduce the hard drive as the bottleneck. Certainly on a core system, they need to be at 10 megabytes per second or more, in our experience. 0.9, not very good at all. So the upgrade to SSD is something that really needs to be considered on this one. I've just run a SunSpider score there. The results there, 150 is actually a pretty good score for SunSpider, and actually matches the iPad Pro that we tested recently. So it gives you an idea of where the performance of the iPad Pro sits in what is effectively almost a single-threaded test on that SunSpider score there. So because this is a core processor, you're getting the Intel integrated graphics at HD 5500 on this, and 3D Mark 11 score of 1080. I think more importantly is to show you some gaming performance figures. Here's a couple of gaming performance tests we did. BioShock Infinite 2013 games at low settings, you'll get some joy out of it. Rainbow Six Siege unfortunately didn't reach that sort of 30 frames per second minimum for playability on a game. World of Warcraft, probably at low settings, no problems at all. And for Minecraft fans, you should have no problems, especially on that 1366 by 768 screen. Should be no struggles there. So obviously your best bet for gaming is good old Windows Store. Just testing a bit of Just Street Outlaws here. Good frame rates, very smooth, really no problem there. So for your best gaming experience, stick with the Windows Store. Let's look at the noise levels that we measured under load, and that is a real load of an hour worth of benchmarking. Maximum 34.7, so really not a problem there. This is a very quiet device. Temperatures under load, Let's have a look there. You can see maximum on the back, 46.3. Just feeling for that now. I can barely detect any sort of heat in that area there. And then on the front, practically undetectable under load. 38.1 was the highest we got there. So no problems on heat or noise. Battery life. Now we've got a 46 watt hour battery inside this, which is actually pretty good. Although 2 kilograms, you would expect something of that order anyway. Have a look at the Wi-Fi test we did there. 7 hours and 43 minutes is pretty good for that Wi-Fi test. We didn't test video or idle, but that Wi-Fi is a good indication. Actually matches the sort of use cases for the Radius 14 anyway. So pretty good on the Wi-Fi serving test, and you can see on the results there, comparison with a few other devices and the Toshiba Satellite Radius 14 coming out on top. Let's have a look at the pros and cons. If you've skipped to this section, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and take a look at what we think of the Toshiba Satellite Radius 14. On the pro side of things, we've got obviously a solid casing, really nicely well-built device, no gaps or creaks and not too much flexing either. Good keyboard and good mouse pad, and that really adds to the value here. The screen is reasonable for a TN screen, but actually in comparison with a lot of other devices that are using IPS panels these days, the accuracy, the brightness, and the resolution aren't that good. It's a quiet device, and there's excellent battery life as well. On the negative points then, well, obviously that screen I've already mentioned. We've got a slightly clicky touchpad if you really want to find a fault with that, although in general it's pretty good. It's a little bit too heavy for tablet mode, 2 kilograms, and also the edges and the feel of the device. It just isn't very good for tablet mode. At best, use it for a sort of display mode like that on the desk. You can't get inside the device without taking the back off, so there's no real possibility of doing any maintenance on this. And although some of the interfaces are full size and you've got 3 USBs, there's no gigabit Ethernet port or display port, so you'd have to consider that when you're looking at the Radius 14. So how did we score it? Well, we gave it a total score of, let's just scroll down there, 78%. And if you go to the website, you can look at how that breaks down in terms of various categories like battery life, games performance, and the like. So check out the full website for lots more detail, lots more test results, and also for the discussion as well. If you enjoyed this video, if you got something out of the video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to get notifications in your email box, and we'll see you on the next Notebook Check Tech Review. Thanks for watching.